Ethan pressed his hand firmly over my mouth, his eyes sharp, emitting a low growl. "Keep it down," he hissed, the sound barely audible over the spa's calming ambient music. I giggled beneath his fingers, the sound muffled but defiant. Tilting my head towards him, my eyes sparkling with mischief, I whispered back, "What's there to be scared of? Your girlfriend isn't home." The first time I laid eyes on Ethan, I knew instantly he wasn't single. He'd come into the upscale spa where I worked, escorting a woman who clung to his arm. She was undeniably beautiful, the delicate, needs-protecting type, with a voice as soft and fluttering as a hummingbird's wings. Before her massage, she murmured to my colleague, her voice barely a whisper, "Excuse me? Could you please be gentle later? I bruise easily and I'm quite sensitive to pain." Ordinarily, my colleagues and I would have exchanged knowing glances, maybe a suppressed eye roll at such preciousness. But this woman? She was stunning. Impeccably polite, and most importantly, a VVVIP client. She'd dropped a cool $30,000 on her membership up front. Nobody dared breathe wrong around her. "So," my colleague just smiled reassuringly. "Of course, don't worry," she cooed, already softening her touch as she began kneading the woman's shoulders. "Just let me know if the pressure is okay." The woman, lying face down on the massage table, let out a soft, contented sigh. I turned my attention to Ethan, who had settled into an armchair in the corner, already lost in his phone. I approached him quietly, bending slightly. "Sir," I murmured, my voice low and professional, "would you be interested in a treatment as well?" Before he could even look up, the girlfriend answered for him. "Oh, yes. Could you work on his legs? He runs every morning, his muscles get so tight. A good stretch would do him wonders." "No, thank you," Ethan replied curtly, his eyes still glued to the screen, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Probably work emails, judging by the intensity." I persisted, employing my well-practiced gentle sales pitch. "Perhaps a shoulder and neck treatment, sir? Focusing on alleviating tension from looking down at work all day." I said no. He finally looked up, annoyance flashing in his eyes. But then his gaze landed on me, really landed on me, and something shifted. The annoyance flickered, replaced by surprise, maybe something else. He blinked, a fraction of a second's pause. I offered him a slow, deliberate wink. Suddenly, he changed his mind. He slid his phone into his pocket. "All right, fine," he conceded, his tone still clipped but the refusal gone. "Right this way, sir." "I'll show you to the changing room," I said, maintaining my professional mask. Ethan stood, easily towering over me, and followed me out of the private suite. We walked down the softly lit corridor to the men's changing area. I stopped at the door. "Please go ahead, sir. I'll wait for you out here." He pushed the door open, glanced inside the empty, locker-lined room. It was a slow time of day, then turned back to me, his expression unreadable. "Come in." I feigned surprise, adding a touch of polite reluctance. "Sir, I'm afraid that's against our policy." "I don't like repeating myself," he stated flatly, his voice low and edged with impatience. Such a charming temper, I thought, sticking my tongue out mentally. Outwardly, I just nodded slightly and followed him in. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, the world spun. Before I could react, he had me pinned against the cool tile wall, his hand gripping my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. His eyes were even colder up close, glacial. "Chloe," he bit out, the name a low growl. "What the hell are you doing here? Is this some kind of game?" I blinked, genuinely confused for a second before realization dawned. "Game? What are you talking about?" Then, letting a slow, teasing smile spread across my lips, I added, "Are you referring to that time in the hotel a couple of days ago?" I tilted my head. "Or maybe that night at your place, about 2 weeks back?" He knew exactly what I meant. Ethan and I weren't strangers. We'd known each other for about 6 months, tangled in a purely physical arrangement. All heat, no heart. 2 days ago, after a particularly intense session at a downtown hotel, I hadn't stayed the night. I'd concocted a flimsy excuse about an urgent work trip requiring me to pack immediately. 2 weeks prior, at his penthouse apartment, I'd slipped out even earlier, leaving a crisp $100 bill on his nightstand like some kind of mocking tip. He'd been furious the next morning, his texts laced with irritation, asking if I was trying to provoke him. I'd ignored them for days, eventually replying with a breezy message claiming I'd been out of the country and hadn't seen them. Bed games, sure. Little power plays, maybe. But deliberately messing with him? Not exactly. He was the one playing games, wasn't he? I raised my index finger, pressing it against the solid wall of his chest, attempting to create some distance. He didn't budge, his strength easily overpowering mine. So, I left my finger there, tracing a slow circle on the fabric of his shirt. You told me you were single, Ethan. My voice dropped to a husky whisper. Naughty boy. Sneaking around behind your girlfriend's back. His hand shot out, capturing my wrist, his fingers tightening around my finger until I winced. Ethan hated being pointed at. The pain sharpened, threatening to snap the bone. I immediately switched tactics, letting my voice soften into a pout. Ethan, that hurts. He wasn't buying the damsel in distress act. His other hand snaked around my neck, pulling my face closer, his intention clear. As I struggled, twisting away, my shoulder bumped hard against the changing room door. A muffled voice came from the hallway. Is everything all right in there? A knock followed. I recognized the voice. It was Sarah, another therapist. Female staff entering the men's changing room was strictly forbidden. If someone saw me, I shot Ethan a desperate, pleading look. He ignored it, his eyes fixed on mine, a flicker of amusement in their depths. Sarah knocked again, louder this time. Hello? Is anyone in there? I need to come in. I tugged frantically at Ethan's shirt. He leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear. Beg me, he whispered, his breath warm against my skin. Seriously? Now? He chose this moment for power games. But I knew when to fold. Survival instincts kicked in. Without hesitation, my voice laced with faux sweetness, I murmured, please? Pretty please? Be a dear and let me off the hook this once. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. Then, raising his voice slightly, he called out, someone's in here. Oh! Sorry, Sarah sounded flustered. Do you need any assistance? No, Ethan replied curtly. He released me and turned his back, starting to unbutton his shirt as if I wasn't even there. Shameless. I quickly averted my gaze, my cheeks burning. Why so shy? He drawled, the sound of fabric rustling behind me. It's not like I haven't seen it all before. You've got some nerve. I fumed silently. Trapped in here, I didn't dare voice my indignation. He then had the audacity to order me around. Hand me a robe. Oh, I muttered, shuffling sideways towards the hooks, grabbing a plush terry cloth robe. As I held it out, he didn't take the robe. Instead, his hand closed around my wrist again, pulling me stumbling forward until I crashed against his bare chest. The heat radiating from his skin, the scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him, it enveloped me. A dangerous glint entered his eyes as he tilted his head, his jaw tight. I felt the undeniable evidence of his arousal pressing against me. You started this fire, Chloe, he murmured, his voice thick. Shouldn't you be the one to put it out? We offer strictly professional services here, sir, I retorted, trying to regain some semblance of control, my voice trembling slightly. A low chuckle rumbled in his chest. Is that so? He leaned closer, his gaze dropping to my lips. Do you still want to get out of here? Right. Sarah was still potentially lurking outside. Annoyance flared through me. Your girlfriend is out there too, I hissed, trying a different tactic. You wouldn't want to earn the title, cheating scumbag, would you? Ethan's brow furrowed slightly, as if considering it for a nanosecond. Then, a smirk played on his lips. I don't care. Well, I do. I leaned in close, my lips almost touching his earlobe, my voice dropping to a fierce whisper. If you don't let me out of here right now, I will scream bloody murder. I'll yell, pervert, and I will make sure your reputation is utterly, irrevocably ruined. The last few words were practically bitten out between clenched teeth. He froze, genuinely taken aback for a moment. Then, a slow, appreciative smile spread across his face. He released me. All right, he said, stepping back. Let's go. He opened the door. Sarah was indeed standing there, looking slightly awkward. Sir, shall I show you to your treatment room? Ethan responded noncommittally, walking past her without a backward glance. I waited until they were far down the hall before peeking out. Coast clear. I practically sprinted back towards the main area, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. During his leg treatment, I deliberately applied pressure near his lower back. Oh dear, sir, I commented with faux concern, your kidney energy seems a little weak. I pressed again. You really should prioritize regular exercise. Maybe some black goji berries? We also have excellent treatments specifically for lumbar and kidney health. Would you be interested in trying one? Ethan's face grew progressively darker, the storm clouds gathering. Recognizing the imminent eruption, I decided further teasing was unwise. I shifted back into professional mode, focusing solely on the massage techniques. After they finally left, Sarah cornered me near the water cooler. "Is it true?" she whispered conspiratorially. "Is his, vitality really that low?" "What makes you say that?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant. "Well," she lowered her voice further. "No wonder. When I was waiting outside the changing room earlier, I could have sworn I heard a woman's voice inside. And then he came out so quickly. It must mean he's lacking, right?" I was taking a sip of water and choked, spraying a fine mist. Sarah patted my back. "Are you okay?" Fine, I gasped, wiping my mouth. "By the way," she continued, oblivious, "where did you disappear to earlier? You took ages coming back." Sudden urge," I mumbled, thinking fast. "Restroom." She nodded sympathetically. Well, maybe you need some goji berries too." Right, I agreed quickly. "Actually, I think I need to go again right now." And with that, I made another swift escape. Later that evening, as I left work, I spotted a familiar sleek, black Cayenne parked near the entrance. My stomach lurched. Tonight is not going to end well. My first instinct was to pretend I hadn't seen it, blending in with my colleagues heading towards the subway station. But then my phone began buzzing incessantly. "Ethan, come here." A pause. "Or I come over there." Another pause. "Your choice." Oof. I bent over abruptly, clutching my stomach. My colleague stopped. "What's wrong, Chloe?" I waved a hand dismissively. Sudden stomach cramp. Really bad. "I think I need to run back inside and use the restroom. You guys go ahead, don't wait for me." They offered to wait, but I insisted, shooing them away. Once they were out of sight, I glanced around, ensured no one was watching, and quickly slipped into the passenger seat of the Cayenne. "What are you doing here?" I snapped, buckling my seatbelt. "Shouldn't you be playing the doting boyfriend?" He shot me a sideways glance as he pulled away from the curb. "Correction. She's not my girlfriend." "Oh! Then who is she?" "Don't tell me she's your long-lost second cousin." Ethan frowned, navigating through the evening traffic. "She's my fiancé." I stared at him, dumbfounded. Seriously? And he thought fiancé was somehow a better answer than girlfriend in this situation? "So," I said slowly, trying to process this. "You're engaged. On the path to holy matrimony. And yet, you're still seeing me. I need you to do me a favor." "What?" "Pretend to be my girlfriend. Accompany me to meet my parents." "Oh!" I laughed curtly. "No." I unbuckled my seatbelt, reaching for the door handle. He didn't try to stop me, just watched me with those cool, calculating eyes. 2,000, he said calmly. Per occasion. Did he really think I was that cheap? I had principles. I wasn't about to become a paid mistress just because he. 5,000, he amended, his voice still level. Principles are nice, but rent is nicer. And 5,000. I slowly pulled my hand back from the door handle and settled back into the plush leather seat. "Okay, spill," I said, buckling up again. "Why? Don't you like her?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tossed a thick envelope onto my lap. I opened it. Inside was a stack of photographs. My eyes widened. Wow! Little Miss Delicate wasn't so delicate after all. Pictures of her with various other men in rather compromising situations. Ethan's fiancé was apparently cultivating a veritable forest on top of his head. All right then. Performing a public service by helping him expose a cheater and getting paid handsomely for it? What wasn't to like? I slapped my hand lightly on Ethan's arm. "All right, boss," I said, a grin spreading across my face. "You've got yourself a deal." "I need clothes," I texted Ethan the next day. "Something parent-appropriate." His reply came after a long pause. "Aren't you supposed to be some self-sufficient princess? Don't you own a single decent dress?" He was deliberately poking fun at the elaborate backstory I'd spun for him months ago, the rebellious rich girl striking out on her own, taking a simple job, only to have her bosses immediately entrust her with massive international projects. My go-to excuse whenever I didn't feel like replying to his texts was claiming I was overseas. I hadn't anticipated this particular fabrication coming back to bite me quite so soon. Before I could formulate a witty retort, another notification popped up. A bank transfer. 5,000. Enough? His text read. I graciously accepted the funds. Barely, I typed back, adding a winking emoji. Armed with his cash, I hit the mall, indulging in a much-needed shopping spree. I even remembered to pick up thoughtful, appropriate gifts for his parents. The following day, Ethan arrived in his Cayenne to pick me up. When he saw the elegantly wrapped gift bags I was carrying, one eyebrow arched in surprise. Well, look at you. Quite thoughtful. Comes naturally, I quipped, handing him the receipts. It was your money, after all. Don't forget to reimburse yourself. Ethan just stared at me, speechless for a moment. On the way to his parents' house, a sprawling mansion in an old-money neighborhood, I asked, anything I should be particularly careful about? Any sensitive topics? No, he said dismissively. Just be yourself. Your usual performance should be fine. I blinked. Was that a compliment or an insult? Hard to tell with him. Are your parents nice? I ventured. Their parents, he shrugged. Translation. Probably difficult. Sensing my potential hesitation, he offered a rare reassurance. Don't worry. I'll be there. They won't give you a hard time. Oh, I'm not worried about that, I said breezily. Ethan raised an eyebrow. I flashed him a smile and rubbed my thumb and forefinger together in the universal sign for money. As long as the payment clears, everything's negotiable. Ethan sighed, shaking his head. Despite my bravado, my palms were slightly sweaty as we pulled up to the house. It was my first time meeting the parents, albeit under entirely false pretenses. Still felt weirdly significant. Ethan's mother was impeccably dressed and preserved, looking at least a decade younger than she probably was. She greeted me with a warm, practiced smile. Chloe, is it? May I call you Chloe? Of course, please do. Hello, Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Hayes, I replied politely, offering the gifts. Ethan's father, a stern-looking man with Ethan's sharp eyes, took them. Very kind of you, Chloe, but unnecessary. Just having you here is enough. No need for gifts next time. What the? This wasn't how I'd pictured it at all. Where was the icy reception? The subtle, or not so subtle, disapproval. The interrogation about my background and intentions? Where was the dramatic, here's $5 million, now leave my son alone scene? Had all those soap operas lied to me? Dinner was equally confusing. Mrs. Hayes asked about my profession. Here it comes. I put down my fork, preparing my slightly edited truth. I'm a beauty consultant. Oh! Her eyes lit up. Does your family own a salon? Which one? Perhaps I've visited. Actually, no, Mrs. Hayes, I began. Oh, you own it yourself? My goodness, that must be incredibly demanding. Just like our Ethan, running his own company. So busy, never home. You young people, always so ambitious. We old folks just can't keep up anymore. Seeing her about to launch into a full monologue, I quickly interjected, Mrs. Hayes, Mrs. Hayes. Actually, it's not my own salon. Then, I work at a beauty spa, I clarified, deciding to just lay it out. As a consultant and therapist. I give massages, facials. I'm the service staff who assists clients like you when you visit. A sudden, awkward silence descended. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes exchanged uneasy glances, clearly lost for words. Ethan calmly placed a piece of sweet and sour pork on my plate. Eat up. Isn't this your favorite? His mother quickly recovered, forcing another smile. Yes. Ethan specifically asked Cook to make it for you, Chloe dear. Please, eat more. Don't be shy. I nodded gratefully and focused on becoming the world's most dedicated eater. Mrs. Hayes made a couple more tentative inquiries. Was I local? What did my parents do? Any family business? After my truthful, decidedly non-heiress answers, they both sighed quietly and didn't attempt much further conversation with me, which suited me just fine. Getting paid to eat delicious food? I could definitely get used to this. I sincerely hoped Ethan would need my services again. Though, judging by their barely concealed disappointment, a repeat performance seemed unlikely. After dinner, we made our exit. His parents didn't press us to stay. Clearly, I hadn't passed muster. In the car, I turned to Ethan. So, my performance today, satisfactory. He glanced at me, that usual cool mask firmly in place. Quite satisfactory. Your mother looked like she'd swallowed a lemon, I pointed out. And you call that satisfactory? You're terribly unfilial. Satisfactory, he repeated firmly. I'm the one choosing a girlfriend, not them. As long as I'm not the one being cheated on, it's fine. Correction, I interjected sharply. I am your fake girlfriend. This isn't real. Don't get too method with your acting, okay? Is that so? He turned his head, his gaze intense and heavy, pinning me in my seat. It made me instinctively want to shrink back, but there was nowhere to go in the confines of the car. Funny, I seem to recall having video evidence of you crying and calling me daddy. Should we review that footage? See just how fake things are between us. It took a moment for his words to register. When they did, heat flooded my face. Ethan Hayes, you recorded me. Without my consent? That's illegal, you know that. Give me your phone. I'm calling the police. I lunged for his phone on the console. He easily deflected my hand. Don't be ridiculous, I'm driving, he said calmly. But I wasn't backing down. I scrambled towards him again, determined to get the phone. He caught both my wrists in one hand, his grip firm but not painful. His dark eyes locked onto mine. I had to admit, the man had presence. Serious presence. My struggles subsided under his intense stare. Relax, he said, his voice softening slightly. I was joking. I don't believe you, I retorted, holding out my hand. Phone. Now. With a sigh, he tossed the phone into my lap. I snatched it up and immediately started searching through his videos and photos. Nothing. Satisfied, I was about to hand it back when it rang, automatically connecting to the car's Bluetooth. A familiar, saccharine voice filled the car. Ethan? Ethan, darling? Your mother just called. She said you brought a girlfriend home for dinner? What? Does she mean? You have a girlfriend? Who is she? Why didn't you tell me? Why would you lie to me? Her voice cracked, trembling on the verge of tears. Ethan, however, remained utterly unmoved, his tone devoid of any warmth or pity. You didn't tell me about your activities either, did you? There was a stunned silence from the other end. Then, Ethan, darling, what are you talking about? I don't understand. He didn't bother replying. He simply ended the call. I handed the phone back to him, offering a wide, innocent smile. Oops. My hand slipped. He didn't comment, merely turned the steering wheel, executing a sharp left turn. Wait, this wasn't the way back to my apartment. My hand tightened on the seatbelt. A prickle of alarm went through me. Where are you taking me? I asked, my voice sharp with suspicion. My place is straight ahead. You didn't need to turn. He said, glancing at me with an exaggerated look of dawning realization, his expression utterly guileless. Sorry about that. My hand slipped. Somehow, inevitably, we ended up back in his bed. Afterward, lying spent on the cool sheets, staring up at the intricate ceiling molding, I murmured, Ethan, this isn't right. He emerged from the ensuite bathroom, a towel slung low around his hips, water droplets glistening on his shoulders. He cast a dismissive glance my way. You weren't saying that 10 minutes ago when you were enjoying yourself. Shut up. My face flushed crimson. I scrambled to get out of bed, intending to shower, but my legs felt like jelly. I wobbled, lost my balance, and stumbled right into his arms. His lips curved into a smirk. So eager to throw yourself at me again? Ready for round 2? Don't flatter yourself. I pushed against his chest, disentangling myself. Get out of the way. I need a shower. When I emerged from the bathroom, clean and wrapped in one of his ridiculously soft robes, the aroma of food filled the living area. Ethan had ordered takeout. A large pizza box sat open on the coffee table while he was seated opposite, calmly eating a container of steamed vegetables and grilled chicken. He never touched fried food or excessive carbs. I'd learned that early on. I grabbed a slice of pepperoni pizza and sank onto the sofa. After we ate, the clock showed it was getting late. I should probably head home, I announced, trying to sound casual. Ethan slowly poured himself a glass of water. Oh! Another flight got cancelled, he drawled, referencing my previous flimsy excuses. Why did he always have to bring that up? Fortunately, my skin was thick. I nodded brightly. Yep, you know it. Gotta rush, plane to catch. Super busy schedule, flying to New York tomorrow, big presentation. He took a slow sip of water, then set the glass down and walked towards me. He stopped right in front of me, leaning down slightly, his eyes hooded, lazy, yet intensely focused. Liar, he murmured, the word a soft accusation. His proximity, the low timbre of his voice, it sent an unexpected blush creeping up my neck. I decided a tactical retreat was in order. But as I moved to stand, he placed a hand on my shoulder, gently preventing me. It's late. Stay here tonight. Go back tomorrow. I blinked up at him. What's in it for me? I asked, fully expecting him to have no answer, giving me the perfect opening to insist on leaving. Instead, he gestured towards a sleek, modern cabinet against the far wall. Second shelf from the bottom. Open it. There's a gift for you inside. Intrigued and slightly suspicious, was he just going to fob me off with some random corporate freebie? I walked over and opened the specified drawer. Inside sat a large Lego box. The picture on the front was a detailed grand piano. He came up behind me, his presence warm at my back. You mentioned you liked building them, didn't you? I was buying a birthday present for my nephew and saw this. Thought you might like it. He was right. I adored Lego, the satisfying click of the bricks, the focus required. But it was an expensive hobby, one I couldn't really afford. I usually just borrowed my best friend's sets. Perhaps my surprise was too evident on my face because Ethan's brief moment of normalcy vanished, replaced by his usual sardonic edge. Don't look so shocked. Anyone would think you're planning to offer yourself in eternal gratitude. I shot him a glare, as if one Lego set is worth that. He took the box from the shelf for me. Want to build it? I'll help. I hesitated, still processing the thoughtful gesture hidden beneath the teasing. He noticed my hesitation, leaned closer again, his voice dropping to a husky murmur. Or, would you prefer to do something else? I pushed firmly against his chest. Build. We build. And nobody sleeps until this piano is finished. And we actually did build it, working side by side on the plush rug until the early hours of the morning. Eventually, exhaustion won. My eyelids felt like lead weights. I slumped against the sofa cushions, unable to keep them open any longer. Through a hazy fog, I vaguely heard Ethan chuckle softly. Look at you. Grown woman acting like a kid. I wanted to retort, to argue, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. My body felt heavy, boneless. The last thing I remembered was the sensation of being lifted, cradled securely in strong arms, and carried towards the bedroom. I slept until mid-afternoon. When I woke, Ethan wasn't in the room. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, but it wasn't there. Ethan? I called out, my voice emerging as a rough croak. He walked in moments later, holding my phone. Someone kept calling. I didn't answer. See for yourself. He tossed the phone onto the bed. It was Sarah, my colleague. I tapped the screen, and my work chat group exploded with notifications. Oh, my God. The regional manager was doing a surprise inspection today, and I'd completely forgotten. Shit. How could I forget something so important? I knew something felt off, nagging at the back of my mind. My phone must have been in the living room. I hadn't heard my morning alarm. I scrambled out of bed, not even bothering with slippers, and dashed towards the bathroom. Ethan followed, catching my arm just as I reached the doorway. He dropped a pair of slippers at my feet. Put these on, he commanded gently. I stepped into them numbly. What's wrong? He asked, leaning against the doorframe as I frantically brushed my teeth. I messed up, I mumbled around the foam. Big time. I quickly explained the situation, the surprise inspection, my absence. Ethan blinked, processing. But you told me you had today off? I did have it off. But the regional manager showing up changes everything. Oh God, I'm so late. Ethan, if I get fired, this is entirely your fault. He looked slightly exasperated. Hey, you were the one insisting on finishing the Lego. No time to argue. I rinsed my mouth, splashed water on my face, and ran a hand through my tangled hair. I grabbed my clothes from yesterday and started pulling them on. I have to go. Now. He caught my arm again. I'll drive you. He was right. That would be much faster than public transport. Okay, I nodded, relief washing over me. Thanks. The car ride was torture. I scrolled frantically through the chat group messages. The store manager was furious, tagging me repeatedly. Sarah had sent private messages asking where I was. Overslept, I'd replied quickly. What's happening? Her response confirmed my fears. Big Boss ripped into the manager about store performance. She's breathing fire. Looking for someone to blame. Keep your head down. Great. Just great. I had a giant target painted on my back. My anxiety spiked. My breathing grew shallow, my hands felt clammy. Ethan pulled the car over abruptly. Where are you going? I asked nervously. He didn't answer, just got out and disappeared into a convenience store. He returned a minute later with a carton of milk and a small pastry. Eat something, he said, handing them to me. My stomach churned. I can't possibly eat right now. I pushed them back towards him. You have it later. Take it, he insisted, his expression firm, leaving no room for argument. I don't need you collapsing from low blood sugar and making me the prime suspect. Reluctantly, I took the milk and took a few sips. The cool liquid settled my stomach slightly, but the knot of anxiety remained. This nervous? Ethan asked, watching me. I didn't answer, too preoccupied with my impending doom to engage in banter. Funny, he mused, pulling back into traffic. You never seem this scared when you're pushing my buttons. What's there to be scared of with you? I retorted automatically. You don't control my paycheck. You can't fire me. Why would I be scared of you? He raised an eyebrow, but didn't reply. Probably couldn't argue with that logic. After a moment of silence, he said quietly, worst-case scenario. I'll support you. Don't, I cut him off sharply. Just save the knight in shining armor routine, okay? Haven't you heard the saying? Relying on a man only leads to misery. That shut him up completely. The rest of the drive passed in tense silence. The spa was buzzing with forced activity when I arrived. I didn't see the manager immediately and made a beeline for the staff break room, hoping to gather my thoughts. Bad move. She was there, arms crossed, clearly waiting for me. Ambush. I instinctively turned to flee, but her sharp voice stopped me in my tracks. Chloe, where have you been all morning? I squeezed my thigh hard, willing myself to stay calm. Turning back slowly, I plastered on an apologetic expression. Manager, I am so sorry. I had a personal matter come up, and I completely forgot to call in and request leave. Forgot to request leave? She snapped, her voice tight with anger. You don't forget to eat, do you? Today of all days. The most important inspection of the year, and you decide to flake on me. She launched into a tirade. I tuned most of it out. Honestly, my presence or absence this morning likely made zero difference to the regional manager, who probably didn't even know my name. The store manager had taken a beating, and now she needed a scapegoat, a punching bag to vent her frustration on. Me. I understood the dynamics perfectly, but I couldn't say a word in my defense. I just stood there, head bowed, adopting the posture of a contrite subordinate, murmuring occasional, yes, you're right, and I understand, punctuating her lecture. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Sarah poked her head in. Manager? Mr. Huang is back. Back again? The manager blinked, momentarily distracted. She turned back to me, her tone urgent. Get changed. Quickly. We'll talk about this later. I rushed to change into my uniform. By the time I emerged, the manager had undergone a complete transformation. Her face was wreathed in smiles as she hurried over and took my arm. Chloe, darling, what took you so long? Come. Say hello to Mr. Huang and Mr. Hayes. Ethan? What was he doing up here? And why was he pretending not to know me? Playing along, I offered a polite smile. Mr. Huang, good afternoon. Mr. Hayes, good afternoon. Chloe, the manager beamed, her grip tightening on my arm. Mr. Hayes was just explaining that you were assisting him with a private therapy session this morning. That's why you couldn't call in. Oh, you should have just said. Mr. Hayes, she gushed, turning to Ethan, please feel free to come by any time you need. Or just give us a call, and we'll ensure Chloe has no other assignments. Mr. Huang, a portly man with a booming laugh, nodded approvingly at me. Only I seemed to be completely lost. I shot Ethan a questioning look, raising my eyebrows slightly. What is going on? He skillfully avoided my gaze, maintaining his air of detached formality. And what is your name, young lady? Mr. Huang asked kindly. Chloe Parker, I replied automatically, using a slightly anglicized version of my name for work. Ah, Miss Parker, he beamed. Mr. Hayes here speaks very highly of your technique. Says your pressure and skill are exceptionally professional. Clearly, you dedicate yourself to your craft. Excellent potential. I managed a weak, slightly panicked smile. Thank you, sir. The manager has taught me well. The four of us engaged in a brief, excruciating round of mutual compliments and corporate pleasantries. Once Mr. Huang and the manager moved away to discuss business, I cornered Ethan. Okay, what was that all about? He explained briefly that he had an ongoing business collaboration with Mr. Huang. He'd run into him downstairs just as he was leaving and decided to come up, ostensibly to check on things, conveniently providing me with an alibi. I nudged his arm lightly. Well, thanks. Thanking me? Ethan raised an eyebrow, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips. He leaned in slightly. Wasn't it just this morning someone was lecturing me about how relying on men leads to misery? No, you misheard. I backpedaled frantically, putting on my most charming smile. I said, not relying on men leads to misery. Double negative. See? Means the opposite. It's essential to rely on men. Well, not just any man. Specifically, relying on Mr. Hayes is highly beneficial. Ethan watched my ridiculous attempt at verbal gymnastics with unconcealed amusement. I couldn't keep the charade up and let my smile drop. Seriously, though. Thank you. Is a simple, thank you, supposed to be enough? What else do you want? I asked warily. Ethan pretended to ponder this for a moment, then shook his head. Haven't decided yet. I'll let you know when I think of something. In the meantime, he added, his gaze sweeping over me, since I'm already here, my legs could use some work. Yes, Mr. Hayes. Right away, Mr. Hayes. Head bowed in mock subservience, but inwardly sighing, I nodded reluctantly and led him towards one of the private treatment rooms. Debts had to be paid, it seemed. After that day, Ethan went silent for several days. His fiancée, however, became a frequent visitor to the spa, each time accompanied by a different man. The gossip mill went into overdrive. See? Told you Mr. Hayes wasn't up to scratch, Sarah whispered during a break. Why else would such a handsome man's fiancée need so many friends? I thought back to that night, to the Lego building, to the way my legs had felt like noodles afterward. A guilty flush warmed my cheeks. Really? I asked faintly. Hey, you seem to know him pretty well now, another colleague chimed in, nudging me. So? Spill the tea. Is he any good or? I nearly choked on my water again. What are you talking about? How would I know something like that? Oh, come on. I bet you know better than anyone. I turned around sharply at the sound of that mocking voice. It was the fiancée, storming towards me, flanked by a couple of her friends. She thrust a handful of something. At me, photographs. They scattered, hitting my face, fluttering to the floor. Pictures of Ethan and me, leaving his apartment building together, getting into his car. Shameless homewrecker, her friend shrieked, pointing an accusing finger. Slut. Seducing another woman's fiancé. She lunged, claws outstretched, aiming for my face. Years of taekwondo training kicked in on pure instinct. Before her nails could make contact, I sidestepped, grabbed her wrist, twisted, and used her momentum to pin her against the reception counter. She yelped, struggling futilely, pain etched on her face. Sorry, I said calmly, maintaining the hold. Black belt. It's just reflex. Let me go, she shrieked. Let's all just calm down, okay? I suggested reasonably. We can talk this through civilly. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what might happen. You can't win this fight. Do you understand? She nodded reluctantly, tears welling in her eyes. I released her. My colleagues had scattered, watching the drama unfold from a safe distance. Great. Now I was officially the center of a very public, very ugly scandal. Look, I began, trying to regain control of the situation. Ethan, Mr. Hayes, and it's not what you think. Oh, yeah? What is it then? The friend snapped, rubbing her wrist. You think we're idiots? She took another aggressive step forward. Stay back, I warned, holding up a hand. Give me a chance to explain, or I swear, things will get uglier. You want to complain? You want to expose me? Fine. Go find the manager. The manager, however, was already there, drawn by the commotion. She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. Chloe Parker, what is the meaning of this? Have you been seducing clients? She practically dragged me in front of the tearful fiancé. Apologize. Apologize to Ms. Vance right now. I wrenched my arm free. I am not a homewrecker. What? I was about to explain that I knew Ethan long before she was even in the picture, but before I could utter another word, a familiar deep voice cut through the tension from behind me. Who says she's a homewrecker? I spun around. Ethan stood there, his expression unreadable, his eyes fixed on me. I'd never, ever thought he looked quite so handsome as he did in that moment. He ignored everyone else and walked slowly towards me. Chloe is my girlfriend, he stated, his voice calm but carrying undeniable authority that silenced the room. She doesn't need to apologize to anyone. The fiancé gasped, fresh tears streaming down her face. Her voice, usually soft, took on a desperate, pleading quality. Ethan? Ethan, darling, you're joking, right? You must be. I know you're just trying to make me jealous because of the others. I'll break up with them, Ethan, I swear. Right now. I love you. We're getting married. You wouldn't break up with me, would you? Tell me you wouldn't. Ethan merely frowned, looking genuinely perplexed. Why would I deliberately try to make you jealous? Who you see has nothing to do with me. He turned his gaze back to me, ignoring the sputtering fiancé and the stunned onlookers. Are you leaving? I nodded dumbly, still reeling. He took my hand, his grip firm and steady, and led me out of the spa, away from the whispers and stares. Once we were safely inside his car, the adrenaline faded, and the full weight of the humiliation crashed down on me. My nose prickled, my vision blurred. A sob escaped me. Ethan, who had never seen me cry before, looked utterly panicked. Chloe? What's wrong? Are you hurt? The more I thought about the pointing fingers, the accusations, the manager's betrayal, the more overwhelming the sense of injustice became. The sob turned into full-blown weeping. Ethan, I wailed, pounding my fists lightly against his shoulder. I have never been so humiliated in my life. This is all your fault. Now everyone thinks I'm some cheap mistress. They were all laughing at me. I choked out tearful accusations between sobs. He awkwardly handed me a tissue, then tried to pat my shoulder, muttering comforting noises that didn't help. Seeing his attempts were failing, he seemed to get frustrated. He leaned over, cupped my face, and kissed me. I was so startled that my mouth fell slightly open, tears still tracking down my cheeks. He kissed me thoroughly, silencing my sobs. After a moment, he pulled back slightly, his eyes searching mine. Still crying. I sniffled twice, trying to regain control. Cry again, and I'll kiss you again, he warned, though his voice lacked any real heat. I slapped his arm weakly, tears welling up again. Ethan Hayes, you jerk. How dare you threaten me? This is all your fault. He captured my hand, holding it gently. Yes, he said softly, his tone surprisingly sincere. You're right. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? No. I shook my head, not even sure what I was saying anymore. He sighed. Okay, how about 10 Lego sets? Would that make you feel better? No. 20. 50. I hiccuped through my tears. I want enough Lego to build a whole wall. Done, he agreed immediately, gently rubbing my back. We'll build an entire room full, okay? Come on, let's go buy them right now. Wait, I sniffled, pulling back slightly. I'm tired. I don't want to go shopping. Can we just rest for a bit? Okay, he said softly. I closed my eyes, leaning my head back against the seat. What now? I couldn't go back to that spa, not after this. My reputation. There was ruined. Everyone would forever see me as the other woman. The thought made fresh tears prickle. Ethan noticed my distress. What is it? I opened my eyes and looked at him, deciding to test the waters. Remember, earlier, when you said you'd support me. Does that offer still stand? Ethan raised an eyebrow, a faint smile touching his lips. Oh, ready to rely on a man now? This isn't relying on a man, I retorted quickly. This is compensation. You owe me. I lost my job because of your drama. I have nowhere to go. Until I find a new job, you're responsible for my room and board. I braced myself for negotiation, for him to haggle. Instead, he nodded without hesitation. Okay, anything else? I blinked, surprised by his easy agreement. You have to help me build the Lego? Anything else? I shook my head. Can't think of anything right now. I'll let you know. He gently brushed a stray strand of hair from my face. All right, get some sleep. We'll be home soon. Maybe it was the crying or the comforting presence beside me, or just the plush seats of the Korean, but I drifted off almost immediately. When I woke up, we were parked in the underground garage of his apartment building. Ethan was on his phone, likely dealing with work emails again. He glanced over as I stirred. Awake? What time is it? I asked groggily. Dinner time. Hungry. I shook my head. I want to go home. It's late tonight, he said gently. Stay here. I'll take you back tomorrow, okay? I hesitated, then nodded. Being alone in my small apartment right now felt less appealing than staying here, even with him. Upstairs, Ethan ordered food and then retreated to his home. Office. I curled up on the sofa, scrolling through my phone. My WeChat was blowing up with messages from curious colleagues. I ignored them all and sent a message to my former manager. Manager, I apologize for the trouble I caused today. But I need to be clear, I am not and never was a homewrecker. Ethan and I knew each other long before his engagement. She replied almost instantly, her tone suddenly polite, almost overly friendly. Chloe dear, we realize now we misjudged you. Please accept our apologies. However, this incident has unfortunately caused quite a stir among our clientele. It's being discussed in the customer chat groups. These situations are very sensitive, you understand. We can't exactly go around explaining the nuances to everyone. The subtext was loud and clear. You're toxic now. Please disappear quietly. I understand, I typed back. I will submit my resignation tomorrow. She didn't even pretend to dissuade me. Given the circumstances, we can waive the usual notice period. Your final salary will be processed and transferred by finance tomorrow. A humorless laugh escaped me. They couldn't wait to get rid of me. Got it, I replied, then tossed my phone onto the cushion beside me. What's wrong? Who upset you now? Ethan asked, emerging from his office. I shook my head. I quit. He paused, his expression unreadable for a moment. I'm sorry, Chloe. This is because of me. No, I said, forcing a bright smile. Honestly, I've been wanting to quit for ages. This was just the push I needed. Too much work, not enough pay. Actually, I added, the idea forming as I spoke, I'm thinking of opening my own place. A small, private studio. What do you think? I'd said it mostly on impulse, but Ethan considered it seriously. I think it's a great idea, he said finally. I support you completely. Whatever you need, finding a space, funding, advice, just ask. I'll help in any way I can. I stared at him, taken aback by his immediate, unconditional support. Ethan, why are you being so nice to me? If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have quit, he stated simply. I feel responsible. Responsibility. Guilt. Not exactly the romantic declaration I hadn't realized I was maybe hoping for. A pang of disappointment hit me, but I pushed it down, forcing another smile. Okay then. Don't worry, I definitely won't be shy about asking for help. True to his word, Ethan was incredibly helpful. He found a perfect little storefront space for me in a trendy, up-and-coming neighborhood and even paid the first 6 months' rent up front. My savings were practically non-existent, so I didn't argue, though I insisted on writing him an IOU. I will pay you back, I stated firmly. He simply took the piece of paper, tore it neatly in half, and dropped it in the bin. Don't be ridiculous, Chloe. You don't need to keep accounts with me. My new studio, Serenity Touch, opened a few weeks later. Business was slow. Most of my former clients, tainted by the gossip, stayed away. The few customers I got were either Groupon deals or friends of friends referred by my loyal bestie. It was disheartening, but I tried to stay positive. New businesses take time to build. Luckily, the shop next door was also new, a charming artisanal bakery run by a friendly guy named Leo. Since we both had a lot of downtime, I started spending my quiet afternoons next door, learning the basics of bread and pastry making from him. One slow weekday afternoon, I was elbow-deep in flour, attempting a sponge cake, when my phone, lying on the counter, started vibrating insistently. Ethan. I wiped my hands and answered. Where are you? His voice was clipped, impatient. I blinked. At the studio, of course. Where else? I'm standing right outside your door. Your assistant says you're not here. Oh, you are? How long have you been waiting? I hurried to the front of the bakery and waved through the window. Ethan. Over here. He spotted me and strode over, his brow furrowed. What are you doing in here? Killing time, I explained cheerfully. Learning to bake. Leo emerged from the back, wiping his hands on his apron, assuming Ethan was a customer. Leo, this is Ethan, I said, making the introductions. My benefactor. Landlord, sort of. Then, gesturing to Leo, Ethan, this is Leo, owner of the best croissants in town. Leo extended a flour-dusted hand. Ethan ignored it, giving a curt nod instead. Just then, I remembered my cake batter. Oops. Gotta check the oven. I dashed back inside. Don't want it to burn. Relax, Leo called after me reassuringly. The timer's set. It'll be fine. Ethan followed me into the bakery's kitchen space, standing silently by the stainless steel counter. So, Leo asked conversationally as I peered through the oven door, he's your benefactor? Yep, I confirmed. Helped me set up the studio, paid the initial rent. So he's the Mr. Hayes you mentioned? The one and only. Seeing Ethan still standing awkwardly, I grabbed a spare stool. Have a seat. He reluctantly perched on the edge. Do you have plans tonight? He asked me. Nope. Why? Good. You're having dinner with me. It wasn't really a question. Okay, I agreed easily. Once Leo disappeared into the walk-in cooler, I lowered my voice. Why me? What happened to your fiancé? Isn't it obvious? He replied dryly. You two really broke up? He nodded, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. And I have you to thank for that. Chloe, sponge cake's ready. Leo called from the cooler entrance. I moved towards the oven, but Ethan caught my arm, his grip surprisingly tight. What's going on between you two? He asked, his voice low. We're neighbors. I answered, confused. He pulled me closer, his eyes narrowed. Behave yourself, Chloe. Technically, you're still my girlfriend, remember? Huh? Since when? Don't play dumb. He squeezed my arm slightly, making me wince. I saw your social media. Right. A few days ago, I'd posted about my new studio specials. One of the former spa clients, a notorious gossip named Brenda, had immediately posted a snarky, thinly veiled comment about how some people manage to climb the social ladder by latching onto wealthy men, but trash is still trash, even if it owns a business. Incensed, I'd fired back with my own post, setting the privacy to Brenda only, honey, worry about your own life. Maybe if you spent less time gossiping, you could find your own sugar daddy. Predictably, she'd taken the bait and messaged me, asking where my studio was, claiming she wanted to support me with her business. Money was money, even hers. I'd cheerfully given her the address. My phone buzzed just as I was carefully sliding the golden sponge cake onto a cooling rack. Speak of the devil. Brenda. Here now. Looks like cake decorating would have to wait. Leo, gotta run, I called out. Customer arrived. I grabbed my apron off and headed for the door, Ethan trailing behind me. What's up? He asked. Incoming, I muttered. Brenda had arrived, not alone, but with two other former spa regulars in tow. Chloe, darling, she gushed, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Long time no see. We were just talking about you, wondering where you'd gone. So, you saved up enough to strike out on your own. Playing dumb, are we? I smiled sweetly, linking my arm through Ethan's possessively. Oh, you know how it is. My boyfriend, I emphasized the word, just couldn't bear to see me working so hard for someone else. Insisted I become my own boss. What could I do? Brenda's smile faltered. She quickly requested a massage. I assigned her and her friends to my two newly hired therapists, then settled onto a chair nearby, pretending to oversee things. You know, Chloe, Brenda said loudly from the massage table, ensuring I could hear. I heard rumors about your boyfriend. Apparently, he has other women on the side. You really need to keep a close eye on him. I've seen his type before, a flag in every port, you know? Utterly untrustworthy, these handsome rich types. I didn't respond, just kept my expression neutral. Thinking she'd hit a nerve, she continued rambling, listing potential warning signs. I let her talk, then pretended to have a sudden realization. Oh, Brenda, speaking of familiar faces, do you know this woman? I pulled up a photo on my phone, one I'd discreetly snapped weeks ago when this particular woman had visited the old spa, paying with a credit card bearing Brenda's husband's name. Who? Brenda asked, craning her neck curiously. I showed her the photo. She used to come to our old place quite often. Always paid with Mr. Thompson's card. I assumed you two were friends, but maybe not. Brenda snatched the phone from my hand, her face contorting with rage. That shameless hussy. They're still seeing each other. She scrambled off the massage table, fury radiating from her. Forget the massage. Brenda, are you sure you don't want to finish? I asked innocently, trying to detain her. Finish what? Chloe, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? What were you trying to pull? She shrieked. Hey, you can't blame me, I said reasonably. Client confidentiality, remember? I couldn't say anything while I worked there. I just quit. Haven't even had a chance to catch my breath, let alone update you on your husband's affairs. She furiously pulled on her clothes and stormed towards the door. I stepped in front of her. "Brenda? You haven't paid yet." Her face flushed beet red. She quickly paid, grabbed her equally flustered friends, and marched out in a whirlwind of righteous indignation. After they left, Ethan approached, frowning. "Did they give you trouble?" "Nope," I shook my head, a mischievous glint in my eyes. "But I have a feeling someone else is in big trouble right about now." I went back next door and finished decorating my cake, simple buttercream frosting and some fresh berries. I carried it carefully back to my studio, where Ethan was waiting, scrolling through his phone. I presented it to him with a flourish, offering him a fork. "Care to try?" He eyed the cake skeptically. "I don't really eat sweets." Hearing this, Leo, who had followed me over, eagerly picked up a fork. "Well, I love sweets. Let me be the judge." Before Leo's fork could touch the frosting, Ethan swiftly intercepted the plate. He took a bite. His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Not bad," he conceded, taking another bite. "Didn't know you had a hidden talent for baking." "Of course." I beamed, cutting a generous slice for Leo. He tasted it. "Wow, Chloe, this is really good. You're getting much better." Leo and I chatted animatedly about sponge to frosting ratios for a few minutes until Ethan abruptly stood up. "Are you coming?" he asked me. "Where are we going?" "I'm hungry," he stated simply. Not daring to defy my benefactor and potential landlord, I excused myself from Leo and left with Ethan. Over dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant, he asked, "Are you always this unoccupied these days?" I nodded glumly. Startup phase. Business is still slow. "But don't worry," I added quickly, "I have plans. Marketing strategies. I'll pay you back the rent money as soon as possible." That weekend, my phone rang obnoxiously early. It was one of my therapists, sounding frantic. "Boss, where are you? Get down here quick. We're swamped." "Swamped?" I rushed to the studio and couldn't believe my eyes. The waiting area was packed, and the appointment book was filled with online bookings. My two therapists were indeed overwhelmed. I quickly jumped in, helping with treatments. While working on a client's spatial mapping, I casually asked, "How did you hear about our studio?" "Oh, my son's company gave out gift vouchers," she explained happily. "So all us wives and mothers decided to come check it out." "Which company does your son work for?" I inquired. Unsurprisingly, it was Ethan's corporation. No wonder he'd asked me for a stack of gift certificates the other day. Sneaky. After the last client left, I sent him a text, "Thank you." His reply came a few minutes later, "You're welcome. Just remember to repay me." "Of course." I typed back. "For you, I'd climb mountains and swim oceans." "No need for anything so dramatic," he replied. "Just accompany me to see my parents again." Again? Was he crazy? Or were his parents? "Are you sure?" I texted back. "Yes. I'll pick you up tomorrow." The second visit was surprisingly smoother. Mrs. Hayes, hearing about my new studio, enthusiastically promised to book an appointment and bring her friends. "I'll make sure you get the VIP treatment," I assured her. Then, her tone shifted, becoming earnest. "Chloe, dear, have you and Ethan discussed when you might be thinking of getting married?" "Married? What was it with rich people and sudden leaps in logic?" I shot a desperate look at Ethan. He was calmly peeling a grape, seemingly oblivious to my plight. He wasn't going to rescue me this time. I forced a polite smile. "Mrs. Hayes, we haven't really made any specific plans just yet." "Oh, but you must plan," she insisted cheerfully. "How about this? When you both have some free time, our family should meet. We can discuss setting a date." I looked at Ethan again, pleading silently with my eyes. Finally, he put down his grape. "Mom, what's the rush? We know what we're doing." "What's the rush?" she retorted, looking surprised. "Weren't you just looking at wedding dresses the other day?" "Wedding dresses? When did that happen?" As soon as we were back in the car, I confronted him. "Okay, Ethan, what is really going on? You're hiding something. We are fake. I am not your girlfriend. Why are we suddenly talking about wedding dresses? And why the complete 180 from your mother? What happened?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "She had a health scare a couple of weeks ago. Fainted. The doctors said it was a precursor to a stroke. She's getting anxious, wants to see me settled down, married off." I softened immediately. "Oh, Ethan, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." He shook his head dismissively but still hadn't answered my other question. But Ethan, I pressed gently, we are fake. You have to tell your parents the truth eventually. I can play the part for a while, but I can't pretend to be your fiancé forever. He didn't speak for a long moment, just looked at me, his expression unreadable. Then, quietly, he asked, Chloe, do you really think this is all fake? Well, yes. I stammered, taken aback by the wounded look that flickered in his eyes. Why did he look so hurt? He nodded slowly, his face hardening slightly, his emotions shuddered again. I see. He started the engine. All right, let's get you home. After that day, Ethan didn't call. He didn't visit the studio. My business, however, slowly started to pick up. I texted him once, suggesting dinner to thank him properly, but he declined, citing a busy schedule. Rumors started circulating, whispers I picked up from mutual acquaintances, hints dropped by Leo, that Ethan had started seeing someone new. Leo, meanwhile, began making his own intentions clearer, asking me out on actual dates, bringing me pastries, complimenting my non-existent baking skills. The distance between Ethan and me grew, becoming a tangible thing. Sometimes, scrolling through our old text messages, a wave of confusion would wash over me. How had we gone from intense closeness, even amidst the pretense, to this polite, awkward distance? 3 months passed. I finally managed to save up enough to repay the rent money he'd fronted me. I transferred the funds to his account, adding a simple message, rent repaid. Thanks again for everything. He replied almost immediately, received. We should grab dinner sometime. Sometime. That vague, non-committal invitation. The adult way of saying probably never. I replied with equal politeness, sounds good. Let me know when you're free. That very evening, I saw him. Leo had invited me out for hot pot. As we were being seated, I spotted Ethan across the bustling restaurant. He was with a woman. Someone I didn't recognize, elegant and sophisticated looking. My attention drifted. I barely heard what Leo was saying, my mind racing. Was that his new girlfriend? Chloe? Are you listening? Huh. I snapped back to attention. Sorry, Leo. I zoned out. What were you saying? He just shook his head, a faint, sad smile on his lips. After dinner, he walked me to my apartment building entrance. As I turned to go upstairs, he called my name softly. Chloe? Can I talk to you for a second? Sure, what is it? He took a deep breath. Would you consider going out with me? Properly? As my girlfriend. He quickly added, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. No pressure. But I didn't want to lead him on. He was a genuinely nice guy. Leo, I began gently, I'm really sorry. You're a wonderful friend, truly, but I understand, he interrupted, his smile tinged with disappointment, but still kind. It's okay, Chloe. Go on up. We're still friends. I gave him a grateful smile and headed inside. A few minutes after I got upstairs, there was a knock on my door. Who is it? I called out, expecting maybe Leo had forgotten something. Delivery, a muffled voice replied. Strange. I hadn't ordered anything. Cautiously, I opened the door. Ethan stood there, holding a large Lego box, a replica of the Eiffel Tower. He offered a small, hesitant smile. Special delivery. Lego Express. I stared at him, momentarily speechless. What are you doing here? Not going to let me in? Are delivery guys usually allowed inside? I quipped, trying to diffuse the sudden tension, but I stepped aside anyway. He walked in, placing the box on my small dining table. I automatically went to the kitchen and poured him a glass of water. Want to build it? He asked, gesturing towards the box. Okay, I agreed softly. We sat at the table, opened the box, and started sorting pieces. But neither of us seemed focused on the task. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken questions. Finally, he broke it. So, you and that guy? Which guy? The baker. Leo? I nodded slowly. What about him? Are you two together? I didn't answer his question directly. Instead, I asked my own. The woman you were with tonight, is she your girlfriend? No, he replied immediately. Daughter of a client. Business dinner. I nodded, processing this. You didn't answer my question, he prompted gently. No, I said quietly. We're not together. I don't have a boyfriend. He nodded again, a flicker of relief in his eyes. He fiddled with a Lego brick, then looked up at me, his gaze direct, almost vulnerable. In that case, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, sounding almost rehearsed. Maybe you'd consider me? I froze, staring at him. I carefully clicked a small gray brick into place. You haven't said you like me, I pointed out softly. I like you, Chloe, he said immediately, his voice firm and clear. A lot. A slow smile spread across my face. I met his gaze. Ethan, I confessed, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating, actually. I like you too. Ethan didn't leave that night. Lego building was quickly abandoned in favor of, as he put it, making better use of the precious nighttime hours. The next morning, I woke up feeling blissfully exhausted and sore in places I'd forgotten existed. I grumbled complaints at Ethan, which only earned me another thorough kissing session that left me even less capable of getting out of bed. A month later, things felt off. I was constantly tired, headachy, occasionally nauseous, and my breasts felt tender. And the most terrifying sign, my period was late. Sneaking out while Ethan was at work, I bought a pregnancy test. Staring at the two stark pink lines on the little plastic stick, my world tilted on its axis. You need to tell him tonight. Be back early. We need to talk. My message had barely sent when my phone rang. Ethan, what's wrong? He asked immediately, his voice laced with concern. Did something happen? No, nothing bad, I reassured him quickly. Just something important I need to tell you. Okay, he said. I'm on my way. Less than half an hour later, he walked through the door, shrugging off his jacket. Weren't you in a meeting? I asked. Doesn't matter. What's going on? Tell me. Wordlessly, heart pounding, I handed him the pregnancy test. Ethan, I whispered, I think you're going to be a dad. He stared at the test, then at me, then back at the test. He froze, utterly still for what felt like an eternity. Then, comprehension dawned, followed by sheer, unadulterated joy erupting across his face. Really? He breathed, his eyes wide. Yes, my sentence was cut off as he let out a whoop, scooped me up into his arms, and spun me around the living room, laughing like a giddy child. I'm going to be a dad. Chloe, I'm going to be a dad, he finally said. Me down gently, his hands immediately going to my stomach, his expression odd. Okay, you need to rest. Put your feet up. I need to go buy books. Parenting books, pregnancy books. And I have to tell my parents. I caught his hand before he could dash out the door. Wait, hang on a second. Ethan, do you want this baby? Why wouldn't I? He looked genuinely confused, then his excitement seemed to temper slightly as he registered my anxiety. Chloe, he asked softly, cupping my face, don't you want it? That's not what I mean, I shook my head, sinking onto the sofa. It's just, how am I going to tell my parents? Unmarried and pregnant? They are going to kill me. Ethan sat beside me, pulling me into his arms, his hand covering mine where they rested on my still flat stomach. Hey, he said firmly but gently. It's okay. Don't worry about that. Leave it to me. I'll handle it. That weekend, armed with expensive gifts and a palpable aura of nervousness, Ethan accompanied me to my parents' small suburban house. My mom, who hadn't even known I had a boyfriend, was initially thrilled. My dad, however, was a different story. He immediately launched into full protective father mode, grilling Ethan mercilessly and pouring him glass after glass of potent baijiu. Thankfully, Ethan held his liquor surprisingly well, and soon both men were red-faced and slightly slurring. Listen here, my dad slurred, pointing a finger at Ethan, I only have one daughter. If you ever hurt her, I will hunt you down. Understand? Ethan's eyes looked suspiciously bright. He reached over and took my hand, his grip tight. Uncle, Auntie, he said earnestly, his voice thick. With emotion, I promise you, I will spend my life cherishing Chloe. I will never let her suffer any hardship. You can trust me with her. I blushed, pulling my hand away playfully. Hey, I haven't actually agreed to marry you yet, you know. He recaptured my hand, bringing my knuckles to his lips for a soft kiss. Chloe Parker, he murmured, his eyes locked on mine, I love you. A month later, Ethan proposed, officially this time, down on one knee with a ridiculously beautiful ring. My life felt like it had suddenly shifted into hyperdrive. Pregnancy, however, wasn't all glowing bliss. Morning sickness hit me hard. One particularly rough evening, after spending an hour hugging the toilet bowl, I tearfully demanded cherries, despite them being wildly out of season. Okay, Ethan soothed. Cherries it is. I'll go find some right now. He rushed out, forgetting his phone on the coffee table. A notification popped up. Curious, I picked it up. It was a message from someone named David Chin, whose name I vaguely recognized as one of Ethan's old college friends. It was a long message detailing advice for supporting a partner through pregnancy. I scrolled up through their chat history. David, anyway, the most crucial thing, mate, is after the baby arrives. Don't let the entire family focus solely on the kid. My wife almost slipped into severe postpartum depression because we all forgot about her. Remember that? That explained why, just last night, as we were falling asleep, Ethan had held my hand and whispered, "Sweetheart, you know you'll always be the most important person in my heart, right? Even after the baby comes, you come first. Always. I promise I won't put the baby before you. You have to trust me." I'd been half asleep and just mumbled agreement. Now, realizing he'd been internalizing advice from his friend, my heart swelled. I opened his phone's notes app. It was filled with lists, pregnancy nutrition guidelines, safe exercises, local prenatal classes, and, touchingly, a detailed list titled Chloe's Cravings and Comforts. Just then, the front door opened. Ethan was back, looking flustered. "Forgot my phone," he explained. I handed it to him and launched myself into his arms, hugging him tightly. He held me close, stroking my hair. "What's this?" he asked softly. "Nothing," I murmured into his chest. "Just feeling incredibly lucky that I get to marry you." Ethan chuckled, a warm, happy sound, and tightened his embrace. "Me too, sweetheart," he whispered. "Me too." 8 months later, I gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl. As they wheeled me out of the delivery room, exhausted but euphoric, the first person I saw was Ethan. He rushed to my side, just as he'd promised, his eyes red-rimmed, brimming with tears. He gently brushed my hair back from my sweaty forehead. "My love," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "I love you." "Thank you." Tears streamed down my own face as I managed a weak smile. I knew, with utter certainty, that the real, wonderful, chaotic, and loving story of our little family was just beginning.